Alaikum everyone. I would like to once again welcome you to our very first event in our new series, Dialogue with Diaspora, where we will be inviting various writers and storytellers. And today I'm very excited to have the opportunity to sit down with Amina. I'm pretty sure most of you know her, but she's a writer, storyteller. She does also broadcast called Isirka, where she explores identity, heritage, and culture. And today, our discussion will center around those issues. So, am I missing something?
No, you're right.
That's good. So, for those who are familiar with your work, you already know the name Isirka, where it comes from.
Okay.
Can you tell us where that name comes from and what it entails?
So before I even get into Isirka, when I came to Geeska 10 years ago for the first time, when I met Aida Hoya, she gave me the name Isir. And I didn't know what it meant at the time. And then when I found out that it meant roots, because it was the Somali translation of Alex Haley's Roots, where he went back multiple generations to find his, to go through his family lineage, that led all the way back to the first member of his family that left the African continent and was enslaved in America. And so I thought it was very fitting that I used Isir, so I used Isir as my name and Isirka as the podcast name. And Isirka, it works in Somali, but it also works for say wallahi, if you just add the Ka to everything, it becomes say wallahi, Somali to us. So I like the double entendre of that. But now I've gotten to the point where people call me Amina Isirka and they call the podcast Isir. So everyone will speak, everyone's gotten confused with it all, but Isirka is still the podcast, the blog, the brand, and everything, because really all of this is to pay homage to my roots and to explore my roots in the same way that I've seen others, do throughout time.
For those of you who don't know, the show focuses on music, culture, and one of the very interesting things she does is spotlight most of Somali artists. And I would like to ask you,
Okay.
I've been looking to ask you. You have done an amazing broadcast spotlighting Shoma Boy.
Okay.
Most of the audience know him.
Yeah.
When you were doing that broadcast, you used anecdote where you compared him to Weekend.
How did I compare him to the Weekend? I don't remember.
You said how you come to know Weekend.
Yeah.
And then you try to explain how Sharma resembles with the rise of Weekend.
Okay.
So I wanted to know, was that like saying, oh, we have the likes of
Yes.
Weekend, or was that a way of saying Somalis are not just people whose history focus on politics, but they do have art and culture?
Okay, so my whole brand and everything I do is to focus on that last part. And I think really we spend a lot of time focusing on politics, but I don't know where politics has gotten us, to be honest, but that's a conversation for another time. But in the case of comparing Sharma Boy to The Weeknd, it wasn't even done purposely. I don't script my episodes. I just kind of press play and I keep going until, I've either finished my point or I've gotten tired. But I think in doing that is showing the power of the diaspora, that my worldview is not just one or the other, that they're both together. And so The Weeknd was very pivotal for me when I was younger. He was an artist that I used to listen to. I went to 5 of his concerts. I really followed him, and he definitely broke the mold on what was acceptable back then. When he just released his music and never showed his face for the first first year that he dropped his music. So Sharma Boy, at that time when I did that episode, that was 2021, Melahas. And he was in a lot of trouble. He was in getaway. He had to run out of Mogadishu. He got in trouble in getaway. And we were just watching his life on social media, as it literally was kind of spiraling out of control. But out of that, he still produced music. The Sharma Boy, I'm King. I was just despite the fact that his life is literally falling apart, still he was so proud of who he was, where he was from. And it also was just youth having a good time. And I think that's something, especially youth growing up in Somalia, Somaliland, in the Horn of Africa, post-Civil War, post-state collapse, any way they could have fun, express creativity, I support. And I think that's something that we shouldn't not let young people do anywhere, but especially here, in ways that it's happening, I think it really deserves to be celebrated.
One of the things one might notice is the theme.
Okay.
For example, she has done an incredible profile of Ilka Ase. The same way Shama Boy,
Yeah.
you kind of use the comparative polemic writing of comparing it to Tupac.
Yeah.
For those who know, so is that a way of saying, okay, we can bet on with Tupac, we can bet on with Weekend?
I think it's a way of saying that, you know, we understand Western artists at the level of hype, not even hype, but like celebrity or appreciative status. Like they've, like, wala almaday, like, you know, they've already kind of gained their title and we respect that title. But amongst ourselves, I don't think we really give too many titles. Like Ilka Asa, people always just say, oh, Bakar Karabka. But other than Qabil songs, do we talk about anything that he does? And a lot of times people are like, all right, he literally just comes out with like gangster, like gangster songs that are always like inciting beef, for lack of a better word, or like, you know, animosity, and Qabil songs. But the man's been rapping for 20 years. And what other Somali artists have we seen that is still that relevant to now? And honestly, I want to write a second piece on Il Qasem because I think that was a bit premature. And I have to say the dedication, he's one of the only Somali artists that is consistently producing new music regularly, that is still very hot. And I think he's one of the only Somali artists that has captured Say Wallahi and made Somali music relevant to Say Wallahi. I think a lot of other Somali artists don't really care about Say Wallahi. And the thing is that you don't obviously have to, you know, make your targeted audience diaspora, but at the same time, diaspora are hungry for ways to connect to their culture and their music. Sultan was it for a little while, but then Sultan hasn't been producing music as regularly. But Ilka Ase, especially this Abdi Kumata song, even while I've been in Hargeisa, I've heard Ilka Ase every day. And I'm just kind of like, how can I not escape Ilka Ase? But I'm not really mad at it, you know? But I think that there's a lot to be said about going against what's conventionally acceptable, you know, utilizing creativity and being consistent.
So one of the audience would think like, why we are focusing music?
Yeah.
And I think it's a fair question, but why your show, your writing for the most part,
Yeah.
why it focuses on just, you write a lot of stuff like you write about identity, culture, but why you focus on music?
I studied sociology, and that's focusing on kind of things that you understand about culture. And so the ways in which you understand things about culture is the ways in which culture is produced. So I used to analyze rap videos when I was in undergrad, but also the thing about Somali music is that it's a way of engaging that's not dealing with a lot of the politicking and curbtailing that happens in our society. And also I think it's a very expressive space, which we don't usually have a lot of those spaces that focus on expression. So I appreciate that. B, I really do like music, period, full stop. And I think a lot of that is, you know, I really appreciate creativity, self-expression, things like that. But also, when I was younger, I could only listen to Somali music in my house. And now going back, like, you know, Ruwaidi Hora, like, it reminds me of my childhood. And so a lot of people, like some of my friends even were like, oh yeah, you just got into Somali music when you started coming to Hargeisa. And I was like, no, I could only listen to Somali music when I was younger. So it's also a way to connect. I think I talked on a podcast episode with Zainab Galal, and she was born in the UK, but she has daughters, like she has children my age. And she does a lot about Somali language. And she was saying that for her too, it's the way to get used to the language, listening to Somali music, even when you're away. And for me, it's also kind of insight into a different time, a different country, a different spatiality that we'll never get to experience because, you know, we'll never get to experience what Somalia was like at that time.
One of the things that is interesting in your storytelling is the way, whenever you are talking about whether it's artist or writing, the kind of scenes you choose.
Okay.
Like you specifically select narrative and stories. Artists that are specifically very, very into Somali culture.
Okay.
Sometimes they might be like a new generation or new music, new rap, but they are specific. Why are you choosing those kind of vivid descriptions about Somali music? Why not just like focus on saying, oh, Somali has a problems. I don't want to talk about Somalis anything.
Because first of all, there's 100 of you all that are focusing on that. But aside from that, I think that music, culture, arts are all of the things that I appreciate in life. You know, it focuses on not even tolerance, but acceptability, creativity, you know, self-expression. But also at the same time, I think art and culture is an inclusive space where everyone's allowed to express themselves or kind of bring whoever they want to the table. I think other aspects of our society in particular are so rigid and focus on only allow people to show up in certain ways. And so music is the one space, like a lot of times, I was talking earlier about how normally maybe on a day-to-day society, like people don't express how they feel. Like maybe you'll like bottle it in for a long time, but then we listen to a lot of songs all day. Well, I do, I don't know about you all, but you know, through like these songs, like they're just lamenting, expressing their feelings all day long. And people really love Qarami music or like Somali love songs. And Christina Woolner wrote a book about Qarami, and she called it like Love Songs in Motion. And she really focused like a whole chapter on kind of explaining that relationship that people in Hargeisa in particular have with Qarami songs, but they're not necessarily verbally expressive in their own day-to-day lives, but they lean towards music to express that feeling. She utilized this term called Dareen Wadag. And so I think that we need music as Somalis.
Some of you might think that we just focus on music. So
Yeah.
let's just focus on the narrative of all the type of storytelling you are choosing. For example, in mainstream media, not even just in mainstream media, but there's a perception about Somalis.
Yep.
They are chaos. It even takes us away the human soul that Somalis have culture, they have roots, they have music, they have artists, they can express themselves in any way, shape that can be literally, even in literary form.
Yeah.
But when you talk to, or when you try to explain Somali histories, and you are explaining from the lens of diaspora, how can you reconcile with the narrative that Somalis are not people of music, they are not the people of art, but they are just the people of chaos? How you can reconcile with that narrative? Or will you ever try to change that narrative in a way that, no, Somalis are not that just, they are not just chaos people?
I think that I don't do anything against that narrative. I don't even center that narrative or focus on that narrative. A lot of what I do is focus on who we are as a people or what we're expressing as people, as humans. From the time I was in grad school even, I wanted to understand, like my first semester of grad school, I did an independent study to understand. I'm only laughing because it was so naive in hindsight, but I wanted to understand kind of what made Somali Somali, you know? And I thought I could, and then my advisor was like, you don't have enough time in the world for that, and you need to probably, you know, like, so I kind of like tailored it or cut it down to what happened from right before the fall of Somalia to now, like in terms of like cultural identity, like what happened to these people that were so proud of being Somali, that were so connected to this one identity, that were so, that was this great nation, to these people that are now spread out all over the world, that are so divisive. And the only way I could answer that question was to do it through narratives. I had to interview people that I knew, to ask them questions about their life and what happened. And I think that was the beginning of understanding, especially from this experience, that everything has to be narrative based. Well, not everything, but a majority of it has to be narrative based. And then you put that up against what academics have written, what other people are writing about Somalia. Because there's a lot of academics that are writing about Somalis and Somalia. Especially in the past like 20 years, a lot of it's around refugees, resettlement, political instability, all of these things that honestly, because it doesn't affect my day-to-day life. So for me, the music makes sense because I like the music. There's a lot of stories to be told through the music, and there's ways that I find connection and meaning through it. Like I wrote a piece, the first piece I ever published was like the ladies that have become my grandmothers, and it was talking about like Sarah Ahmed and, you know, the women of that generation, and like, you know, kind of what was the advices or the different things that they were telling you through their music that maybe my grandmother would have told me if I lived near her.
That's fantastic. You touch Sarah.
Yeah, I love her.
She's a classic musician.
She's my favorite.
Yeah. You have an entire series called Contemporary Somali Male Artists.
Yeah, Ragadambe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ragadambe. There's a series called Ragadambe where she talks, not just talks about, she's polite, celebrate their art, their music.
Thank you for saying I'm polite.
So, thank you. You're welcome. So I want to ask you, is there any tension between preserving the classic music and accepting and celebrating the new music, this kind of rap, hardcore, sometimes foul language music?
Yeah.
Is there any tension and how you reconcile with
Tension for me or tension publicly?
Tension for you and even those who will listen to your podcast who will say, oh, why she's
focusing on this. For me personally, there isn't any tension. It definitely was a learning curve. Like I told you earlier, when I first came to Geesa, I only liked Habula de Wabiri. And then my friend tried to teach me Geeska-چيسكا when I was coming here. And I was like, I'm not interested. And now I'm like, I really played myself because I was the heyday of Geeska-چيسكا. Like, they were really on fire. But at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. But now with Sharma Boy, I really liked Sharma Boy, like around a couple years ago. Now he's gotten a lot more crude and I'm just not with it. But back then it was still just very playful. And it was very witty and he's very clever. And I think that a lot of people had there was a lot of negative response to Sharma Boy in some ways, but I think people generally seem to really like him. Even the aunties loved him. Like, he really just, I think, had this good energy that people like to be around. Like, but for me personally, I like what I like. And if I like something, I like something. So Sarah Ahmed's my favorite. Khalid K was also my favorite. Like he was the first Ragad. I think Sharma Boy was the first Ragad Dambe, but it was supposed to be Khalid K. And Khalid K might have been number 2 or 3. It was either between him or Ismail Ubah, like the 3 of them. Like it was supposed to be Khalid K or Ismail Ubah, and then ended up being Sharma Boy because he was hot at that time. But anyways, to answer your question directly, me personally, no. I think that it took a while to embrace what was happening now, but now I really like what's happening now. Like I'm really but then I'm also like, then funk, it depends on whatever like my mood is, but now I really don't listen to older music anymore, I've realized. So I'm listening to a lot of contemporary songs, and then I'm like, I wonder why that is, but I think it's just kind of the mood that I'm in or whatever.
Let's circle back to identity.
Yeah.
You have touched Hargeisa.
Yeah.
I think you have been here a number of times.
Yeah.
You have been other Somali cities.
Yeah.
I want to know, for those who grew up in Hargeisa, or for those who are local, we don't understand the problems that comes with growing up outside, with the environment that you are not familiar with.
Yeah.
Growing in a land that I'm sorry to say, but that doesn't belong to you. So you have been here.
I mean, America is the home of the land and the free. It belongs to everybody within. Okay, so I'd like to really challenge that because I think people really take advantage of the fact that just because you are tied to a place because of your ethnicity, that is home. And I don't think it is true. I think home is a place where you feel like you can be your fullest self. You read my master's thesis. What was the first quote that was like, what did she say?
Again, she was acknowledging that the land she was born to, that she doesn't just born here, but she belongs there. That's what she was.
No, she said that this place was not home for her because she couldn't live a full life here. And I say that to say that I don't think that that's a conversation that we need to have. They would say, like you need to grow, you spread your wings. So I think it's kind of like there's something special about Hargeisa. And there is a lot of Hargeisa that I hold dear, especially in a cultural sense. I think it's definitely rooted my understanding and connection to Somali culture and identity and shaped it in a way that I don't think anywhere else will. And I think wherever I go in the world, nowhere could touch Hargeisa for me in that regards. And the fact that I learn things from here sets me apart from other people because they don't have access to what happens here. And the richness that comes from here. And even I think Hargeisa also, for me, what I think of Hargeisa, I think of like listening to Qurani music at night and drinking shah. So last night I did 2 of the 3 things. And that to me is just kind of like, you could do that anywhere else, but it might get distracted. Like it's just, there's a settledness here for me that feels very much at home. And so to answer your question, sorry, I forgot your question, about the challenges, America's all that, like America's I know America. I didn't know Hargeisa. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to move. I still don't even know how to deal with hijab. Like, there's a lot of things that you have to really learn. Like, I had to learn to be here. So I think just saying that this is your homeland, you should feel accepted, is delineating how much things have changed, how the fact that we grew up in different cultures that are completely different to here, and whatever we have to deal with when we're in Hargeisa is what we deal with when we're here in Hargeisa or in Somaliland. If I go to 6 other countries, I might not have the same issues that I have in Hargeisa, And it's not to say that Hargeisa is good or bad, but it's a very different and unique context from a lot of things. So I don't really feel like America is not my home. Yeah.
So I think there is sentimentality that comes with walking the streets of Hargeisa, interacting with these people, interacting with these local people, sometimes even a family member you don't even know.
Yeah.
Will that ever affect how you view identity, your personal, not even just your identity, but even your experience with Somalis? Will that ever affect the sentimentality that comes with it is history, it is local people, it's culture?
Of course. It's like, that's what, of course. I think, I've always met random family members, but I have a lot of family members here. So it's a different context. Even yesterday, I went to go see my grandma, and her sister. Her sister just came from Miga, but I mean, I'd seen her in Italy before. But yeah, there's a different context that I think in Hargeisa in particular, I guess people could say it everywhere, but I think Hargeisa is a bit unique in the ways in which it is such a big cultural producing city compared to other places. But there is a lot of learning and interacting here, like I said earlier in particular, that has shaped my praxis. Yeah, absolutely.
Will that ever affect your storytelling from now on? You have been here since 2014.
Yeah.
But the experience of local people, the experience of Hargeisa, will that ever impact your writing, your storytelling?
You don't think it? I mean, I think it has in a lot of ways. But I wrote a piece, but it's not online right now, about 1984. My parents got married in Hargeisa. And I didn't know until that I came back the first time that there's pictures of them at Guled Hotel. And I spent a lot of my time here at Guled Hotel. So there's so many, and then the guy, my dad's best man, took me around and drove me around, and he told me stories. And then when I went to London, and then my aunt was like, oh yeah, we all went to the National Theatre together. My parents never told me this, but my aunt told me this, and then my uncle, my dad's friend, told me this. So there's a lot of ways that just different things weave in and out, through this experience of being here. And honestly, when I first came here, I don't even know who he was. Maybe he was a random taxi driver. But he was like, oh, Qurbat Katimate, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I was like, I was here doing my master's research, and I wanted to see the land for the first time and stuff. And he was like, make sure you tell people about what you saw here, what we went through. And I was just like, okay. I was like, you want to trust me with that information? I was like, I'm trying to figure out how to get places, how to do things. But absolutely, I think there's a lot that being here in particular that I've learned.
There's always a question that comes with those who grew up in diaspora, which is how one can reclaim his identity.
Yeah.
He never lost it, or she never lost it.
Yeah.
In case, but there's always the perception that how can I reclaim my identity?
Yeah.
I'm Somali enough.
Yeah.
Am I speaking Somali enough?
Yeah.
So how someone can reconcile with that identity issue? It's not an identity issue, but
I mean, it is an identity issue. Yeah, I think. Because a lot of people in the diaspora, especially, they feel like they need to, there's a guilt. I think for us that we're older, there was a guilt that we weren't able to grow up within the country, within the region. And that shaped a lot of our lives. So it was like, okay, well, we need to do better. We need to learn this. I think now Gen Z, the younger generation, from what I've seen, they're so much more connected to Somali culture than we were. We didn't really, part of it I think is the internet is really big now. We didn't have access. We didn't think it was cool to have access. And, they're learning cultural dances. They're listening to Somali songs. I'm like, I still can't take the fact that they're listening to Somali songs. But I think I started Isika to show people that there's a way that you can create your own connection. And I think it's very important for people to create their own connection. Obviously, your parents are going to teach you what they're going to teach you. Your external family members are going to show you what they're going to show you. But what we don't realize is that your parents are also people too, and everything is filtered through their own personal experience. Whatever traumas they have, whatever biases they have, that's what they're living with. And so why should I take on the burden of something I didn't personally experience? And so I think it's so that's like when you asked me about music, that was me creating my own personal connection. Now nobody can tell me about. So I was singing with a taxi driver today in the car. That's become my thing. And it's not because I'm going out of my way to do it. It's just like a natural thing to me. And I think everybody should just find whatever's natural to them that they like. If you like cooking, then, go to figure out different recipes, talk to other people, find your own way to create your own connection to things that make sense to you and works for you.
For those who are listening to us, they might think maybe you were talking about the identity and how we can reclaim that identity.
Yeah.
One might think, okay, maybe it could be only music because it's only music. But is there any other way in which diaspora kids? Is there any?
It could be you too, anybody, that's fine.
Is there any way in which they claim their identity through not just music, but coming to their own country, experiencing that's the history it is, interacting with its local? Is there a way in which they reclaim that identity?
Yeah, if they do it genuinely, instead of just going, I'm at this hot restaurant, there's definitely a diaspora experience that people have in the city. But at the same time, I think there's a level of comfortability, so whatever they're comfortable with, engaging. But I think that if you just come here and you have a diaspora experience, then it's kind of a waste, in my opinion. You could have gone to Kenya, you could have gone anywhere else. I think for me, the one thing about Somali identity is always focused on properly, whoever you're around. I have so many varied family members. I think we all do, really. But that was something that we were just taught to accept from a young age and navigate. And now, me and my dad talk about it all the time. He's like, there really isn't anybody that I can't talk to or won't talk. Some people I won't talk to, but so it's just kind of being open as much as you feel comfortable with. And, you could always learn something from somebody. And Hargeisa is a place where you have to build trust before people open up, of course, everywhere. So I think that is a part of the story, that it's not just you come and you're like, oh, I learned Hargeisa. It takes time and energy. Maybe now it's different, I don't know. But so it won't be an easy experience, but I think if you try, it'll be a worthwhile experience. But I think Isirka started for people to create their own connection to culture and also learn a little bit more about the motherland. It honestly was supposed to only be 7 episodes, just about my experiences coming back home. And now it's 80 something. It just kind of grew and never ended. But I really wanted, me and my friends talk about this, when we came in 2015, we didn't know what to expect. There weren't too many people that were coming before us at that time. So I was like, okay, some people were like, you need a visa this, can you wear jeans? I knew you couldn't wear jeans, but my friend thought you could wear jeans. So nobody knew what to expect. So we just wanted to I wanted to basically show that if I could come here and make a way, then anybody could. And so, and give people just a little bit of information or background to that.
I want to get back to being a writer.
Okay.
So I think there is as a Somali writer, there is, I think, a sole responsibility to tell your history in a way that is not just other-sided, but in a way that's authentic, that reflects your own community. Because I think, for me, in my understanding, Somalis are Somali histories is one of which has been not just distorted, but framed in a way that is sorry to say, because in an orientalistic way, where a white man come here, he will observe things, he will tell the history through his lens. So as a writer, do you feel a responsibility to reshape the Somali history? Not reshape it, but to tell the history in an authentic way, where you can tell the what's happening here. Who are the people? Who are these people? They are not just people who just poor, not the people you see on CNN with the mother, you see the kid who is crying, not that person, but people who have a soul, who have everything a human can have.
I think a lot of people can, because I don't really write too much about Geeska from like just a social context. If I write about it, it's usually a little bit nostalgic. And I have to think, I did write something one time, but I don't, I mean, honestly, a lot of what I write is just through my lens of navigating things or processing things. But I think a lot of what I do in my own way to kind of change the narrative is just kind of share this information, like whether it's about the artist or even the music, even the land, like a lot of, like my own little thing is just my Instagram stories. But I think it's just kind of showing good or bad, regardless of what is something is perceived to be good or bad, if it's a chinga, if it's borka, like all of that is part of the process. And so I think instead of just kind of, you know, talking down on like inconveniences, like, and, you know, there's a lot of like, it's just more so, this is what it is. And if you still are proud of it and okay with it, and atkufanted, then I think that is a way you're restoring dignity. Everything I do is really done to ensure that like it's being done, or the story or whatever, the people are being relayed in a dignified way. And I think that's what you're kind of getting at, is that there's been a lot of ways that we've been depicted that gets rid of our dignity. And so putting respect on our artists, our existence, all of those things is my way of serving to dignify the Somali name, the Somali experiences, and the Somali stories, and the Somali people.
Would you have encouraged diaspora writers that they do the same? Would you have encouraged them?
I think vocals could do that. I think it'd be more powerful, like if you all do it, because I think focusing on diaspora is the answer, I don't think is the answer. Diaspora do have access to a lot of resources, but they're also navigating a lot of different spaces and identities. And I think a lot of times, this is public, so why am I gonna try, whatever. But I think a lot of times diaspora just always want to have like this Somali excellence dominated existence that is so far removed from the lived experiences of a lot of Somalis. And I get it, it's like their way of saying that we're proud to be Somali, but it's not in a way that I think is actually causing about like positive social change. It's kind of like of a false lens of being like, oh, we are doing good because of this. But do you talk to your neighbors? Like, do you help the kids with their homework down the street? You know, like there's other ways in which you can actually enact positive social change to help the community move forward, as opposed to random award events, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. But I think that there's a lot to be said about, you all have access to a lot of stories and experiences being in the country. So I'd like to hear from you all.
I think for local people, they do understand that. So for the most part, but there are some, in some cases, there are, from my observation, I think there are unique perspective in which diaspora can give. I know the lived experience is big major part in any storytelling. But when you become a country which you belong to, when you see these histories, when you actually interact with the people, their culture, and what they are, and where they belong, I think there's a sole responsibility where you should tell that story. You should say, okay, these people are not just chaos people. They are storytellers, they are great poets. They are great poets, they are storytellers. And I think as much as locals have some responsibility, that also falls on the shoulders of diaspora. Would you agree with me then?
I would like to fight against that, because the diaspora guilt is the same as like the white man's burden. Now it's become a diaspora's burden, right? Which is like, okay, cool. A lot of us 10 years ago, we all came here based on diaspora burden, and people wanted to make a change. But the reason I'm fighting you so hard on this is because when they came, they were pushed back against very strongly. And they still are, you know, some certain institutions and things like that. So what is the purpose of the diaspora's burden that you're heralding so hard, or like pushing for, if you don't give space for the diaspora to actually do anything or to have access to information? Yeah. Well, I mean, what is your answer to that?
So to be honest with you, you have raised a very important critical issue. I will just leave it there, but and you also touched on your thesis on
Yeah.
the thesis that diaspora have those kind of issues. But I think for those there's a very distinctive difference between a storyteller
Yeah. Okay,
and
that's fair.
dialogue. And
That's
so
fair.
that's a responsibility on you.
Okay, all right.
How much time do you have? Okay. So I will give to them. If they have any
Okay.
questions, we will take it. So haddii uu jiro qof su'aalaya, you can
Af Soomaali baad igu weydiin kartaa, not it's okay.
You can Somali ku weydiin kartaan hadduu jiro qof su'aalaya.
Yeah.
Horta aad u maasantay runta ducada sida wanaagsan ay ugu soo jeedisay runta waayelada waxaan u yarwahay magacan aramaysta isirka inay looga beexo siday u baxday iyo macnaha ay leedahay runta
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Can you repeat the name of Isirka?
What فهمي ده؟ ما دي تجربة I understand.
Okay, that's good. Go.
I just prefer speaking in English so I can fully express myself. Like, is Naima still here? Did she leave? I did good in Somali today, Samaha.
Yeah.
No, she was. Anyways, it doesn't matter. What'd you say? No, this is being recorded, so I can't do that. But ayayday ba magaciisay Isir. Marka la kulmay 10 sano ka hor waa markii ugu horeysay inaan Hargeysa imaado iyadana miigay ka timaadeen inay aragto iyadana shalay arkay wali Hargeysa sii joogtay 10 sano anana marka soo laabtay then I saw her yesterday. So Isir bay ii bixisay and man garanay macnaha Isir. She just said, "Oh, Isir baa tahay." Amina Isir, and I was like, "Kolay magacayga ilowday." So like Isir bay ku dartay. I didn't, man garanay macnihiisa. And then waxa arkay book oo nin Mareykan oo madow ah qoray. And buuga waxay ka hadlaysaa or waxay actually like raacaysaa like family-giisa oo dhan like 7, 6, 10 generations going all the way back to the first person that left Africa. And it's called Roots in English and it's Isir in Somali. So I said, okay, that's, Amina Isir ba halkaas like la soo baxay. Isir kana dadka like I wanted everything to be Isir. Lakin dadka marka la hadlay they were like, that's too short of a name. It's kind of weird. So Isirka really like, I think Somali ahaan, it makes sense. It's the right context. But lakin also qurbujoogta, like say wallahi markay wax doonayaan ay Somaliyan ka bay ku daraan wax kasta. So it works in both contexts. So I liked that. But imika now everyone calls me Amina Isirka. And I'm like, maxaad Isir ii diideen? Like it's okay. So magaca halkaas ay ka timaaday. Yeah. Yeah. So the craziest thing is that dadka ugu badan oo dhageysta podcast-kayga waa dadka dalka jooga. And anigana aad baa ka yaabsanay taas because waxa u bilaabay Isirka inay qurbujoogta ka faa'iidaan, like at least like hadda aniga Hargeysa tagay hadda la qabsaday hadda so badankooda a lot of them are like in awe but like ma dhexgalo like they don't really like resonate with it because way ka fog yihiin Somalinimada iyo waxaas lakin they're like oh de waxaad noo tahay tusaale oo kale like oh mashallah inaad samaysay lakin adiga ay ku taalo oo kale like and I'm just kind of like oh so then imika waxa ku jira waxa ku aad ku xiranay dadka dalka ku cusub because yaka is fahmayna like waxa ka hadlay dalkay waxaas but waxa ka si yaabka badan is like my like family so aad bay iga yaabsan yihiin they're just kind of like inantan yar siday sida noqotay like my uncle literally now adeerkay like my dad's younger brother he's in Abwan and I didn't talk to him for a long time but now I started talking to him again. Every day he's like, mashallah, 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 mashallah. He's like, he's like, how did you become this person? And I was like, I don't know. I just kept following whatever I was interested in. So I think to answer your question, I think eventually for people it will be valuable. I think for some of the writing that I've been doing in Minneapolis, it serves to put a light on the fact that Somalis are producing culture and and Minnesota Somalis way behind in task because there's so much like there's a new drama. But I think in terms of the other stuff that they'll listen to here and there. But I think it'll take a while before it really resonates with a lot of them. But for me, honestly, the podcast itself is an amazing catalog. Like there's so many stories. So if anybody ever wants something to listen to, I mean, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm very, very surprised by all of it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. So I now Emeka came out in Minneapolis Midigani. Like, and I think Emeka, I'm gonna move there, inshallah. Like maybe. But I went 2023, 24, 25. I'm like, okay, in a muqalo so dubo, like what mesha ka socdo, at least like in a like capture grayo. And then but the thing is, I want to focus on cultural producers only. That's what like the direction that Isirka is moving towards now. Like Maheku Kurdini and like the arts and cultural sector. Because I think that's the most important thing. There's other people that write stories about other aspects of Somali existence. And they always do, but nobody focuses on arts and culture. So that's what I'm planning to do. I recorded one episode and I might go back after I leave here, to do more, but inshallah. But let me ask you a question, if I can ask you a question. Do you want to see arts and culture or just general Minneapolis, Somali? What's happening? Like what exactly would you like to see from Somali Minneapolis stories?
Yes, I think everybody would love that. Like Minneapolis, Somali museum,
yeah.
I think those stories
yeah. No, I think it's I just wanted some clarity. I think it's valuable. Like Hariri went, and they have some, I think, different Somali, and like and her stuff. So there's those type of things too. But I think also they're just from other angles. It'll be valuable to hear what's happening. Yeah.
So for you to like come here and look at the village, what would you say?
She's my neighbor.
What do you think that I should do it like as someone my age? How could I get to marry this being at Geeska and like being just like unaware of my surroundings?
Well, I think I don't know what to say about your age because I was a lot older than you when I came, So, but you're at an age where I think it should be a lot easier for you to connect with people. Like you go to school, although you probably go to school with a lot of diaspora people. But honestly, like you need to just talk to people. Yesterday, I went to my Yea's house, right? And then there was this woman that lived next door and she had his baby. And when I was there, and I always used to, that baby was my best friend. Like she was 2 years old. And I always used to like play with her and things like that. So yesterday when I went, the woman now has 5 kids. So the girl that was 2 years old is 10, but she had another baby. So then I was playing with the baby and she was like, she's playing with this baby the same way she played with the other one. Like she hasn't changed. And I'm like, this is who I am. Also babies are. So I think it's really just about finding ways to connect with people and talk to them. And also you have to, I mean, you're still so young that you can learn the language easily. And you're at a point also where you're shaping what your norms are. So for us, my norms were so American for so long that it really took a long time to accept like my culturalization, even though it was happening. But yeah, I would just say be open, talk to people around you, and also have fun. You're 16, 17 now, right? 17. Yeah, you're so young. But also, I think volunteer while you're here. Like that also be like, you know, different ways to build different types of community wherever possible. بوجاج ما قرأ articles بقرأ. Yeah. أي. أنا أفسماني كو قرأن. No, but I think it's important for people to publish things in Somali too. Sabab kasba hesa Somali degeysa. Like I think it's very important still for things to be in Somali, or else we will lose our identity. And I know I'm saying that as I'm speaking English, but you know, it's easier for you all. I can write basic sentences in Somali. Should be lucky. But that's because you know, actually, I'll answer that in a different way. Dadka badankooda, especially waayelka, markasta waxay dhahaan, oh, dadkiina qurbaha ku dhashay ama ku koray waa inaad afka ku hadashaan, inaad, you know, dhaqankiina barataan, blah, 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 blah. Laakiin, ma diidani, it's important, you know, for you to know your language and stuff like that. Laakiin the other side of the coin is, dadkaas oo 20-30 sano Maraykan joogay oo aan af Ingiriisi ku hadlayn, or, you know, like waxay ku dhaqmayaan ku nool yihiin meel oo like luqadda aanay fahmin. So the importance for us to learn a language in a country we don't live in or don't need to use doesn't make sense. And I think the issue and what the parents are really saying is, but there's you can change that a different way, you know. It's like and I think we need to focus on that more, because even now everyone's like, I don't need to. I don't have too many There's not many times I'm speaking Somali on a weekly basis, monthly basis. You know, when I go to Minnesota, I speak a lot of Somali, and then I'm like, and then you know, it's like a different story. But you know, Somali. So I think there's a point where we need to embrace that, but instead, then what is a way that you can bring people in and mutually help each other. Every time I try to learn Somali from somebody, they're like, and I'm like, oh, okay, there goes that. Like, so I think there needs to be a better, there should be a better way, a softer way. The issue is, because even like, I don't want to keep going. But when we were younger, you know, if you spoke Somali and you said something wrong, you have an accent, then even like your elders would be like, you said that, and then they don't want to Afghan Kadlan, you know? So you can't keep trying to have people connect to their culture, or like hadad doonaysa soo cheataan si wanaag oo kalgacal buuxan soo cheat si xoog ha soo cheatin, you know, because then that's going to push them further away. And my dad always says, like, markuu korinayay, he wasn't very rigid with us. He wasn't strict, because if he gave us too many rules, then we would rebel. But it was just kind of like a soft launch. So that's my answer to that. I think the issue is, how do we find middle ground between, you know, ourselves, and how do we still keep culture alive and connection alive? And I think it's dialogue. I'm really I never thought I would be here doing this, but I'm really happy to be here doing this. And I think we need a lot more spaces like this. And yeah.
لكن وحي سيك Soomaali asaas u ahaa adigu ma markaa kale dabcan kan way jirtaa adiga bacay halka ay soo dheeray waxaan rabaa inaan ku weydiiyo dabcan شنو بوي يجانا وكشرو
Yeah.
يا محمد بيكي
Yeah.
وتشرو كل دوين
Adios. Yeah.
marka waxba dhageysanaysa marka shan ma dhageysanaysa halkii ka dhageysan waxa dhageysanaya asaliqa qalabki waa ay ajiiba
Yeah.
marka soo kala dhageysanaysa si waa music yo taaqan wasf theater la socda taaq maxaa dhageysanaysa marka dhageysanaysa sarba boy ama ilkaas
Ilkaas, what do you mean maxaa dhageysanaysid? Okay. No, I understand what you mean. Yeah, but I'm saying what are you talking about? Have you not listened to Ilkaasa? Nothing will get you as excited for anything as an Ilkaasa song. Like, you know, even like Marka Lugani, if I'm trying to like exercise, if you listen to Ilkaasa, even Hablehen Reno Gadenia. My mom was like, like, why are you so excited? And I'm just kind of like, but it's like, it's the beat, it gets you hype and excited, right? So even like, so BK, maybe it takes you to a nice place, but Ilkaasa gets me hype, you know, Diga Kaya. So it's like, it's fun, like, you know, and also even, I want to say a couple of things about Ilkaasa because everybody, this is what I'm going to write about and I haven't written it yet, so I just keep telling everybody verbally. Ilkaasa is actually more than just a rapper, he's quite diverse. Dantu Qada, love songs Bu Qada, and all of his songs, a lot, like 80, at least 70% of them, Child Bukadle, even that Kumurko Ayo, there's, you know, Gabar Bukadle, like 2 lines later, you know? So I think that when we say, okay, you can't say, it's not habit, but how do you say value? Like not qimaha, but like, basically, you know, when you talk about how music has like extreme value and cultural relevance? Yeah. Yeah, so you can't say only BK songs like or Karami songs have strong value. You know, like I think I understand why you're saying it, and I'm not saying it to directly challenge you, but I'm saying it to directly challenge the narrative that the only thing that is valuable within a Somali context are hesi hore. Because even chill kandama, nobody like everyone said waxaan heesa maaha. Every day I have that conversation. Waxaan heesa maaha. But like in macne u leedahay, you know, dhalinyarada imaka like chilka, right? So the same way Karami songs had ma'na to them, then these songs have meaning to these young people. So we need to move. I mean, you guys all can do what you want, but I think that it would be wise to, you know, just like stop the comparison game as to like, I consider this valuable, so it's valuable. That's not valuable. It's more so, what are people finding the value in this? And for Ilkaasa, I cannot scroll on TikTok without seeing an Ilkaasa song. Even in Geeska-چيسكا, every day there's an Ilkaasa song playing in the taxi, and I'm like, okay, so there's something that people are I mean, The State of Abdi Kumada is a great song that and even Fanani Tareer Geesa, all their TikToks are their Ilkaasa songs. I think the one thing about Ilkaasa that I wrote in that piece that you referenced was that he makes you proud to be Somali. Like nobody else, it doesn't matter. He grew up, he came to America as a refugee. Like, you know, politics are insane all across the Somali, like territories, whatever. Lakin, he will always give you an anthem that'll make you proud to be Somali. And I think there's something very valuable in that. And the fact that, say, Wallahi can use that too, in a kufanan Somali nimadoda, I think is very valuable. And maybe that has more value than BK, even though BK sounds nice. And I'm not coming for BK, but I'm just saying there's a functionality, yeah, to the... The lahans are amazing. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Oh, I need to authority واحد من المركز يعني وبرضه يقول ناس أشياء لا جواب سليلة هي شيء سليل فن كان يبغى أنا هستعمله أما هذا بعد من هاي ترجع كله بنشيله
yeah
سيبله بنشيله ما سليلة هاي ما دام دوكي dowladda meesha ka baxay soo xirmaya oo waxa bedelaya kan kale oo iska furan oo malaqda iyo ka sabtay soo xasleedahay dabcan labadooda waxay leeyihiin ma jiro isku mid ah.
The only reason I'm laughing is I think that's Hargeysa's question to answer. Because I think Hargeisa was the only place that will have that responsibility to give us high class music, to be honest, you know? So there are, like, if there's still some younger Abwans that are still producing songs to that level, then it will be. And I think, and even if not, I mean, I think it's only Hargeisa's question to answer, honestly. I don't think Qurbahinat Khelisid any more high class music like that. Because even Fananita, like Funka, like Dehe, like Nim'ay Yasin, Noor Dalai, like, they're the only ones that would sing songs like that. I don't think these younger artists will. And I think it's gonna also continue to evolve to be something different from what you're looking for, especially as we continue to be in the diaspora, because God bless, there's no hope for the diaspora to sing it, to produce music in Somali, you know, to that level, or in general. The thing about like that, the reason why Betty was able to do, or even Geeska-چيسكا, everybody was together, the Abwans, the musicians, the singers, you know? So unless we have space where there's groups coming together like that, I don't think so. He raised his hand right here in the front. عادي أدي وحنا إن المراكب كقرتاي. ها. وأنا قاعد فاهمة يعني. What does the لحن sound like? Okay. No, but I have a follow-up.
haddii isirka ay egtaan waxay leedahay labo season waxaa la dhahaa jiilka dambe season waxaa la dhahaa classic music oo saada cali marka qaar waxaa qaadaysaa khadra daahir saada cali warsame those type of xasan aadan samatar marka qaarna inkastoo shiil inta badan waxay ilka case
is not on the podcast for the record. But no, what I was gonna say to you is, I think, okay, so going back to the functionality, you know, so heestaas BK ereyadaas macaan markaad dhegaysatid, like baad ku raaxaysanaysaa heesta, like do you like listening to the song for those lyrics or do you like laxanka, you know, like waa su'aal ha no, but intaas maan ku weydiinay waxaa ku weydiiyey heesta maad u jeceshahay micnaha midhihiisa. Okay, sometimes waxaa doonaya laxanka inaad ku raaxaysto, you know, like I do like words a lot, but sometimes laxanka baa igu filan, you know, like so even like I really like Hodan singing Dunbury, like heestii hooyadeed, you know, because and a lot of Hodan Abdurrahman songs, to be honest, like it goes up and down, like when she's singing, like her tone goes up and down, like, and it's really. And so I'm so ADD-ish that I like following. If I just listen to, if you just sang like this the whole song, I'd get bored. So sometimes it's just about the functionality of the song. And that's really how I'm going to end this conversation, I guess.